What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is the return of the Only Sports podcast. We were going to record on Tuesday, but obviously, after what happened on Monday Night Football, we decided to postpone it until hopefully there is some good news about the Damar Hamlin situation. And apparently, there is Casino. Apparently, he
Yes.
is now like miraculously recovered. He's now like FaceTiming teammates. So he appears to have dodged like a major bullet, like a freak accident and all that kind of stuff. So that is good to hear. Do you have any thoughts on what happened Monday night?
It's just a scary event. I mean, T. Higgins, I don't blame him at all. You know, it's
no, and people who blame him are fucking dumb. Like once in a lifetime thing.
I wanted to throw that out there. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. And so they still haven't confirmed exactly what it was. They said he went into some sort of cardiac arrest, but they're not giving the exact reason of why. Yes, he got hit to the chest, that helped cause it, but what actually happened in there, they're still figuring it out, apparently, is what last thing I read about it. But kudos to the Bills staff and the hospital staff in Cincinnati keep praising how well the Bills staff was there and the paramedics that were on site. They revived him on the field and essentially saved his life. So shout out to them. That's awesome. Yeah, it's finally a good story. He's obviously still in the hospital, still recovering, and the big thing is his neurologically, he's all still there. So that is a big plus. And I thought it was actually, on the lighter note, kind of funny how when he first came to, he still wasn't able to speak because he had the breathing tube in, but he wrote because he came to and he had all of his feeling. He wrote, "Did the Bills win the Monday night game?" I thought that was hysterical.
No, that is, and that's how you know, like he's like a football guy, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
That was his first thought, which nice segue, Casino. So let's talk about now. Obviously, this happened Monday night. Very scary situation. Everybody, kind of stopped the sports world in its track. Me and Casino were talking, and we kind of made the decision not to do a podcast episode after that because, first off, I didn't want to do a whole hour and a half show dedicated to someone almost dying. That felt like predatory and just weird, and like
Definitely predatory.
Also,
I didn't like that feeling.
Yeah. Also, we're not like doctors, and so it's not like we can make like medical analysis or prediction. It just felt weird. And then all the sports shows the next day, they just did their regular shows where they were talking about that. And then anytime they would go to talk about a different subject, people would be like, "This is bigger than sports." And it's just like, all right, there's no way to fucking win because either people want you to do a 3-hour conversation about how this guy almost died, or the second you go to a different sports topic, people are like, "Why aren't you talking about the guy who almost died?" And it just all felt just weird. It felt like the wrong thing to do, no matter what.
Right. I mean, and here's the thing, like in my take, there's many other things going on in many other sports. Those shows, yes, obviously talk about what happened, and it was very important to talk about that and bring people aware. And but there are other sports still going. It's not just a football, a football world. There's other sports going on. There's other people. So like, I didn't hear really anybody talk about, and I want to bring this up, different type of sport, but motorsports. Ken Block passed away in a snowmobiling accident last Sunday as well. And you have people who know motorsports talking about it, but they're also still talking about other things. And, the shows, they talked about it, the condolences, and, brought awareness to what happened, and, prayers and thoughts out to their families and all their fans. But then they kept moving on, and I struggled with that portion of it. how you said it, it was almost predatory, and I didn't like that feeling of you're talking about this one subject for 3 hours. We had our update. The family came out, the Bills came out, everybody came out and saying, "Hey, when we have more update on it, we'll let you know." So I was tired of people speculating and then started pointing fingers at each other for saying wrong things and this and that.
Yeah.
It got annoying to that point because now the focus really isn't on Hamlin anymore or Block. It was on that point. Now it was, I want to be right. I want to be heard. I want to be the first person to talk about this and the only person with the most source information. How about we just pay our respects? That's why we didn't have our episode on Tuesday. We paid our respects. We wanted to kind of just keep it calm there for a bit.
Well,
Now
we
this
also
week we're
wanted to
going to get back
wait
into
and
sports.
hopefully
Yeah,
where it got to the
because we
point where
didn't
there
know
was like good news.
because we didn't know about it. We
Yeah.
didn't, we had about maybe 20 minutes worth of information that we could have talked about that everybody else is talking about with their opinions. But here's the thing, it comes to opinions, and it feels to do that with your opinions instead of just giving the facts. When you're talking about sports and the games, I could give you my opinion on this player and that player on how they're doing and what I think they should be doing. But when it comes to somebody's life and death, it's like, okay, he's alive, he's dead, where's his progress? And they didn't want to share anymore. So that's where I was okay with not wanting to talk about that more than the information they gave us, because they wanted it to be, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a little bit of a rant. And we could talk about all those shows that did talk and they actually got into arguments with each other on the show, which took away from Hamlin
Yeah.
and his situation.
Well, no, I think two things. I think one thing, the reason this one was brought up more than the race car driver, and then I was telling you right before we started recording, there was a former Browns running back, Peyton Hillis, like is in the ICU after saving his kids from drowning, just like crazy shit. The Damar Hamlin one got brought up more than those two just because it happened during a game. It obviously happened I think that at that point was one of the most watched Monday Night Football games, I think, ever, not because of this, but because it was a big game. We were obviously anticipating it. A lot of people were. So whole football sports world was tuned into that game, happens live on the field. So I think that's the difference of those two. Doesn't make
I totally understand that. I get that.
Well, I'm not, but I just want to make it clear that you weren't saying like one was worse than the other, blah, blah, blah.
No,
You're saying
no,
that.
not at all.
Yeah. But
I'm not good with words. I try. PJ can always break down what I'm actually trying to say here.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify.
First and foremost, was that his health. And it's really great news that he's coming out of that and seems to be doing okay. My biggest thing is, yes, he's able to move his hands and legs, which is huge, but neurologically he's there. That would be the scariest thing if I had a family member that was coming out of something. If they turned into a paraplegic, that's horrible. But if they forgot who they were and all their entire life, that would destroy me. Yeah. So I'm glad I'm glad that he's all there to what they're saying. So
yeah. And then the other thing is quickly what you were saying about sports shows getting into debates about it. I know we talked about this where Skip Bayless sent out a tweet that people took offense to. I didn't really see what was wrong with it. He was talking about what happens now with the game, but then at the end he was like, but that feels so irrelevant. And I feel like everybody just didn't read the last sentence, but
they didn't. And so when you and I talked about this, here comes my take on this again. What he said and what he was trying to get across, well, there was two things that was on everybody's mind. One, his health. Mm-hmm. Second was, what is the NFL going to do?
Yes.
So those were the two things. And he was the first person to start talking about the second half of those, the second question of those two questions. I didn't like how he delivered it. I just don't think.
I think it's a poorly worded tweet.
Yeah, he doesn't know how, and this is why I've never really been a fan of him or Shan on on that show. I don't watch it
No.
because they bother me tremendously. But
Yeah.
he didn't express how he wanted to say it correctly. He didn't word it right. Obviously, reading that last line, he is concerned, but he's also just wanting to ask the second question that should be brought up.
Yeah, I think it was a case of.
Did he word it poorly? Yeah. Does he know how to come back and express what he actually meant? No, because the next day they got back into it again because Shannon wasn't there that day, the day after he left because of the tweet. And then when he gets back in there the next day, he was like, "Oh, I thought we weren't going to talk about this." But also, Shannon, you said you're not going to talk about this. You brought it up. Like,
Yeah,
it bothers me that, again, people are just arguing about it. And everybody's arguing about his tweet. Now, all the cancel people out there want to cancel Skip off the show. I don't think
well, that's also anyway. The issue with that is what you were talking about, which is now all of that shit brought the focus off Damar Hamlin, and now it puts it on this fucking stupid ass, which I agree, just a shit show. That show is fucking terrible. Even for like a sports like debate show, like PTI. I always watch. I've always watched. I love them.
One of my favorite debate shows.
It feels like real takes, real people having debates, and there's no like the thing with Skip that everybody is always fucking hate is he just feels like an inauthentic like hot take machine, right? Like it just seems like none of the shit he says he believes. He just does it because he knows it'll get people riled up. I agree with you. I've never, and the reason I won't defend him is because he's done enough in his sports media life to just make himself be an asshole and look like a fucking dickhead. So
I could just see what he was trying to get across with that tweet, but he doesn't know how to say it. He doesn't know how to say that.
Well, no, because he's dumb. Like he's always been dumb.
Like, so yeah, I just want to get that point across. Hopefully I don't get canceled for my takes on it, but
no, but I think now that, final thought, I guess, on that is good that Damar Hamlin it seems like he'll, at the moment will make I don't want to say full recovery, but will just be, a lot less worse than everybody thought he was, right? Because I mean, there were reports coming out that night where he technically like died 2 times on the field and had to be like brought back. And then there was, I don't know how much of this is rumor, speculation.
Well, when you don't have a pulse anymore, you're technically dead. So that happened. He did die. He did flatline, according to sources.
And that Monday night, that was so long. Like how many times they cut away from it and came back and he was still on the field and there were just cuts to players crying and it was just like that was one of the scariest like sports moments I've ever been watching like live. I think we both agree on that.
Live 100%. I've seen a lot of other scarier moments. Like I told you about the goalie back in like the late 80s. I think it was 87 when he got his throat cut by a skate.
Oh yeah.
And his main carotid artery just got cut, and like seeing that shit, but I didn't see that live. I was watching that play. I watched it. I was at my work and he just fell over. It's not like he stayed on the ground. Like Tua hit his head, he got concussed and he's doing, his hand thing, that the body does. And that's scary as hell. That was scary, but I've seen concussions before. I knew that, he would be okay. I mean, his probably not great having 3 concussions in 1 year, but I knew he was going to be okay. But seeing a guy stand up, fix his helmet, and then just drop, especially scared the hell out of me.
Oh yeah, no, especially the way like all the scariest injuries to me are always the non-contact ones, because then like there's something wrong that happened. And obviously for him it wasn't no contact because he still got hit, but it was like the delay from the hit to the no contact to him standing up and just passing out. But we've talked enough about this. I think we made our thoughts clear on everything, blah blah blah. So
body's okay.
Shout out to Damar Hamlin and cool, the Hamlin family.
His toy drive
Oh yeah,
It
that's
was only
awesome.
supposed to be $2,500 is what his goal was, and it reached over 7 million. So,
And it's still going too.
and it's still
It's still
going. So
climbing. Yeah.
awesome people for doing that.
Yeah. But so as you brought up in the skip topic is the set. So now that we know Damar Hamlin is okay, and again, hopefully he improves to 100% and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
So
yeah.
now that we've talked about that, the other side of this coin and equation was the Bengals Bills game was very important to, I mean, obviously, not as important. And this is the last, like, because I just said I hated when the sports shows did this. So now we're going to stop talking about the Hamlin stuff and start talking about the other sports that obviously don't matter as much as that, but he's okay. So I think we're in the clear. The Bills Bengals game was important to the football side of things for playoff seedings because I mean, we've been talking about it for weeks at this point. Bills won that game, they're the number 1 seed. Bills lose that game, Chiefs are the number 1 seed. Bengals win that game, and either Bills or Chiefs lose in the next 2 weeks, or especially Chiefs. If they lose to the Raiders have always played Chiefs close. Bengals are number 1 seed. So obviously that game, there was that night, it was like NFL's trying to figure out what to do. Next couple days, it's like NFL's trying to figure out what to do. Yesterday, we're recording this Friday morning, they finally came to a decision, and I'm just going to read it right now. So the game is ruled a no contest, which means nobody gets a win, nobody gets a loss, nobody gets a tie, which is kind of the best scenario.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's so many people not happy with this, but this is a lose situation.
Oh,
There's no right answer.
No, and if they would have both
there for hours trying to rack my mind on what they could do, and I mean, this isn't ideal, but I mean,
yeah,
this is what it's gonna be.
So, well, I'm just glad because I think the beginning rumor was like, oh, they're just going to give both teams a tie, and it was like that would fuck both of them over as much as a loss almost because KC is right there. But so this is what, let's see, this is what, if I have it correctly, has been decided. So the resolution that was presented to clubs for a vote on Friday, and then it was, I believe, they've accepted this. So this is what will happen. The AFC Championship game will be played in a neutral site if the participating teams played an unequal number of games and both could have been the number 1 seed and hosted the game had the AFC clubs played a full 17-game season. Those circumstances involve Buffalo or Cincinnati qualifying for the game as a road team if Buffalo and Kansas City both win or tie this coming week. A Bills-Chiefs AFC title game, if they got to that point, would be at a neutral site. If Buffalo and Kansas City both lose and Buffalo wins or ties, a Bills-Chiefs AFC title game would be at a neutral site. So this keeps going. If Buffalo and Kansas City both lose and Cincinnati wins, Bills or Bengals against Kansas City in the AFC title game would be at a neutral site. Finally, if Baltimore defeats Cincinnati in week 18, the Ravens would have 2 wins over the Bengals, a divisional opponent, but will not be able to host a playoff game because Cincinnati will have a higher winning percentage for a 16-game schedule than Baltimore will for a 17-game schedule. Therefore, if Baltimore defeats Cincinnati and if those 2 clubs are scheduled to play a wildcard game against each other, the site of that game would be determined by a coin toss. However, if the Bengals win the weekend, or if Baltimore and Cincinnati are now scheduled to play each other in the wild card round, the game sites will be determined by the regular scheduling procedures. All of that is basically meant to say...
Take a breath.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whew. All of that is basically meant to say, if any of these four teams, because it also fucked with the Ravens because the Bengals are also in their division, and the Bengals not winning gave them the AFC North title, like the AFC North division title, even though they play the Ravens this week. It's again, giant clusterfuck. But basically, what all of this is saying, from what I've gleaned from it, is AFC Championship game is going to be at a neutral site,
Yep.
regardless, unless it's not, unless KC, Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals, or Buffalo Bills, unless one of those four teams is not in the AFC Championship game, which seems unlikely, it is going to be at a neutral site. Now, my issue with this is Bills very likely were going to win that game Monday night, as likely as the Bengals were going to win that game Monday night, because Bills were number one seed. Bengals are the hottest team in the AFC right now. Both of those
We've talked about that. We had talked about that game being one of the best, if not the best game of the year.
And I'll tell you what, that game started out great. Like Buffalo went right down the field, it's kind of stalled in the red zone, got a field goal. Bengals went right down the field, got a touchdown, got the ball back. They were driving again. If Bengals would have been up like 14-3 and then the injury happens, I wonder if the narrative of like, should we just give the game to Cincinnati? But again, I don't think you can. Like, I saw some things online where they were like, oh, well, when the game ended, like Cincinnati was up 7-3, so they should be awarded. And it's just like, no, we've, especially this season, when we're seeing Minnesota Vikings come back from down 33, like, no. This season, with how the passing rules and all that stuff have evolved, you can come back from anything in this league. But my main issue with this, Casino, is all of these scenarios. The one that doesn't get, because again, these are only scenarios for the AFC title game, right? So what happens if it's Cincinnati, the third seed, going into Kansas City? Like,
Right.
you get what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, all of this fucks over the Bengals and the Bills and like awards Kansas City number one seed, even though it was likely that if, well, it obviously, if the Bills won, they were still the number one seed. If the Chiefs lose, the Bengals are number one seed if they beat Buffalo. Also, both the Bills and Bengals have beat Chiefs. So it's weird that Chiefs are still thrown in this mix with two teams that have beat them this season. So I've talked for too much. I'm out of saliva in my mouth explaining all that. What are your thoughts on this whole, I guess, solution to the problem?
I tried to stay very still. I was starting to break up, so hopefully I if I was glitching out, I looked fine.
Yeah.
My thoughts are this: there really is no win. This is a unprecedented thing, and people. I also see people saying, "Oh, there should have been some sort of thing out there to stop this, or like what am I trying to say? Some sort of procedure in place for if something like this happened." The last time this happened was over 50 years ago when a player died on the field because they didn't have the medical equipment or knowledge that we have now. So, and they're not even sure if that's exactly what it was. So, yeah, there is going to be no procedure on this. It's a lose situation. And as you said, just so happens it fucks the Bengals and the Bills more than anybody else. So, because so say it is, let's just call it, hey, my Patriots versus the Bills. I'm just throwing two teams out there that make the NFC or the AFC championship game, the AFC championship game. That benefits the Patriots because now they don't have to go into Buffalo to play.
Yeah, I don't.
So I mean, because that if I'm reading that right and how you explained it, it doesn't matter if it's those two teams in there together. It's no matter if one of those four teams makes it to the AFC, it has to be at a neutral site.
Yes.
So that benefits those teams that are maybe somehow make it to the AFC Championship and they play one of them. I'll tell you right now, I'm very happy if that was the case for the Patriots, if they make it there. and they're playing in a neutral site and it's not in Buffalo, it's wherever, that's not Buffalo, not KC.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Well,
I'll take
that's
that
what
as a
I'm
fan.
saying. Like, especially like I agree with you that it's a no-win situation, but like you said, but this seems like a all lose situation. So there
It is.
has to be something
And
that
and
comes between an all lose or one team wins scenario. Like it just
right.
seems like again,
And
yeah, it just seems like they went, well, we are gonna piss off one fan base, one team, so let's just piss all of them off. And
but I think that's
here we are.
fair. I'll be honest. I mean, it's shitty, but it's fair, because if you do just piss off one fan base, then that's all they're going to talk about is, oh, the NFL's out to get this team. They didn't handle this team properly when they should have. It's unfair to that one team. Now it's unfair to all these teams. I think that they handle it as best they can. Because like I said, I've sat there and I tried to rack my brain around it, and I can't figure that out. And then I see all these posts on Twitter or whatnot. Like, I don't even have a Twitter, but it still shows up when you're looking on Google. People calling out the NFL and, for this horrible plan of theirs and how it's unfair. And I'm like, okay, then you figure out a better thing. I know they're just probably trolling, most of them, but some of them are actually serious about this. Okay, well then how about you devise a plan, put it together, and then they can explain to you why that doesn't work.
Yeah.
There's no win in this situation, so it's gonna have to be a lose. Everybody's gonna have to lose. It is what it is.
So I just pulled this up when you were talking about that. So this is the what happens to the AFC playoffs. This is the impact on the Bills Bengals game being canceled and like what all the rules I just ran down. This is what it means to these teams. There's 5 bullet points right here. So like I said, Bengals have clinched the AFC North. Ravens cannot win the division, even though if Bengals would have lost Monday night and then Ravens beat them, those two switch playoff spots, right? Because the Ravens would have beat the Bengals, they would have been top of the division. So this is the one after this. The Bengals can no longer obtain the AFC's number 1 seed and first round bye. Remember, since they added the playoff team, only the number 1 seed gets a first round bye. It used to be I really feel like if they wouldn't have fucked with the playoffs and it was the top 2 teams in each conference get the first round bye, I don't think they would have changed shit. I really don't think they would have.
No,
but I really
have.
think because of just that one team, it fucks it all up. The Chiefs clinch the number 1 seed with a win at Raiders or a Bills loss versus the Patriots. The Bills clinch the number 1 seed with a win versus Patriots and a Chiefs loss at the Raiders. Last one. The Bengals will finish as the number 2 seed with a win versus the Bengals, with a win versus the Ravens, a Bills loss to the Patriots. In any other scenario, the Bengals will earn the number 3 seed. So like we just said, Bengals get fucked. They can no longer obtain the number 1 seed in the first round bye, even though before Monday night, they were right in the running. Bills get fucked because now they only clinch the number 1 seed if the Chiefs lose and they win, even though they were ahead of the Chiefs before that game was canceled. Bengals can now only finish as number 2, but they finish to number 3 if the Bills win. So again, and the Chiefs clinch the number 1 seed. All they have to do is win. So again, the Bills were number 1. This game gets canceled because out of anybody's like hands, we just talked about it, at least in our lifetime, once in a lifetime event that kind of reshaped all this. So Bengals get fucked. Now they can only basically get the number 3 seed. Bills get fucked because Chiefs are not losing to the Raiders. If the Chiefs lose to the Raiders, then all this goes out the window because then it won't matter. Because then it's like, well, Bills, you had a chance. All you had to do was win, and you were still number 1 seed. And yeah, but as of right now, everything I just read, Bills got fucked, Bengals got fucked, Chiefs, they get the number 1 seed. All they have to do is win. I
Ravens got
fucking
fucked.
hate that. I fucking hate that. They, ugh.
I mean, could you think of a better idea, a better plan?
Yeah, this was my idea. And I
Sure.
know, okay. So the thing outside of that game was everybody kept saying the Bills and Bengals don't want to play this game again on the same field it happened. Okay. Now there's a scenario where these two meet again in the playoffs, and it wouldn't be in Cincinnati because, as I just read, most likely the Bengals are going to drop down to the number 3 seed. So why don't, this was on Monday Night Football, why didn't you push back the games this week? Because you had, this is the thing that is not talked about enough, I feel. You have that extra week window.
Oh yeah, before the Super Bowl.
Yeah, between the Super Bowl. Add an extra week to that. You're the fucking NFL. You can push back the Super Bowl a week. Who the fuck is going to tell you no? Who the fuck's not going to watch it? That would be the only game you would have to reschedule. It's in a neutral site. They wouldn't give a fuck. It's going to be the most money that town, stadium, city ever makes. Blah blah blah.
So you say about money. That's the big thing about money. The NFL gets a lot of money from. I mean, we live in Vegas. A lot of money from all these NFL, branded things that are happening in Vegas that weekend, and now they have to move them. That's trying to get. Yes, the NFL has the power to move the NFL or move the Super Bowl. They have the power to do that, but in doing so, they're going to lose out on a shit ton of money. And again, it always is about money. Always about money.
Yeah,
they're going to lose out on so much money if they have to get the entire just Vegas, the entire strip to change their plans and move it. That's only not only is that going to mess with like all the shows in town that are supposed to be, everybody's in town for those things. And what are they going to do hotel wise? I get what you're saying. I understand it.
But wait, you haven't heard the end of my scenario.
I think the best thing you said though is just that, because I forgot that I really did forgot there was that second. They give you 2 weeks to prepare for the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
make it 1 week. Oh well, it's football. You should be ready.
Well, yes. So
that's a good point. I didn't think of that because I totally forgot about that ghost week. So now everything that I've said about NFL did what they could. I like the ghost week idea.
Okay, so you know what? My scenario still works if we don't move the Super Bowl. So, like you said, teams just get 1 week to prepare for the Super Bowl. So you get rid of that second week. You cancel this upcoming week. You say we're pushing back this 1 week because player safety, we want the players to be with their loved ones, scary situation, we don't want people playing with this in their mind, blah, 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 blah. Make whatever fucking thing you want to say, okay? You're still, everything just gets pushed back a week, and then you play, what is it? You play Bengals Bills at next Monday night. You had the two teams that were going to play Bengals Bills play each other. So you have those two teams, right? So you have Bengals Bills play Monday night for the number 1 seed because it's a much more important game. Then you have Ravens, Patriots, your team, play each other. I don't get why that was never discussed. And then it's because this game means more than Patriots Bills. Nothing happens for the Bills, right? Like no. if Patriots, they need a bunch of shit to happen outside of their control to get into the playoffs. So
now, then it was just beat the Bills, you're in.
Yeah. So this was coming up to the last week of football. So again, why? I don't get why this, like, you don't want to have Bengals Bills again for on the field for the thing that happened. But why can't we do it in a week after, again, we found out he's okay. It was a freak accident. All the Bills players and coaches came together. They showed a bunch of love and support for each other. Nobody's going out there trying to fucking kill each other. So why? I don't get why we're not just thinking like, well, then if this is an unprecedented thing, why don't we just make an unprecedented move and just switch the teams, have them play each other because it matters, right? And then Ravens, Patriots play each other. Bengals, Bills, we can do a Monday night doubleheader. They've loved that this fucking season. And then we just start the playoffs a week later than we normally would, get rid of those 2 weeks, and then I feel like it's solved. Like, we've already seen Patriots and Bills this season. We've already seen Ravens, Bengals. Again, it would still come to a scenario where there are 4 playoff teams all playing against each other for like seeding. And then if it comes down to, we just tweak it a little where it's just like, oh, well, they were divisional games. And then it's like, that's when you go off win percentage. So that's when you go off strength of schedule, right? Because they've already played each other once. So then you go, well, let's say scenario, Bengals and Ravens both win, right? So Bengals beat the Bills, Ravens beat your Patriots in my scenario. So then we go, okay, they have the same division, which means they have the same schedule, the same teams they've played. Who has a better winning percentage against tougher teams? And then that's how you do the division. I feel like it would be much easier than like doing that way. You have 3 things to explain. You say these 2 teams who are going to play each other, they now play again next week. And then these 2 teams they were going to play last week, they play each other. That's one thing. The second thing is whoever wins, if both division opponent, if Bills, Patriots win, then you do same thing, even though it's not for the division, but I'm saying for like playoff seeding. You do same thing. Who are the Patriots against in terms of getting into the last spot? You do winner percentage against common opponents. And then Bengals, and again, my scenario only gets slightly complicated if both Bengals and Ravens win, and then all you do is just go winning percentage against better teams. Done. That's it. We've already seen Bills, Patriots this year. We've already seen Ravens, Bengals. So putting that much emphasis on those division games instead of the game to determine basically the number 1 seed throughout the AFC playoffs, I feel is fucking dumb. Why are you trying to preserve a week 18 that is less important than a week 17 that had to get canceled because of things outside of their control? Thoughts, Casino?
Oh yes, NFL. I got somebody that needs to be hired. Yada 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 yada. No, that's a good take. That's out of all of the people that I mean, this is why I'm your co-host. More like you're the host, and I am like the psychic. You're the Batman too. I'm the Robin to your Batman.
No, anyway. I'm Batman. You're Superman. We're super friends. Actually, no, you're more Batman. I'm more Superman.
I like dark stuff.
Yeah, you're Batman. I'm Superman. We're world's finest, right there.
No, that was a good take. I mean, I sent you my video of Batman on my new bookshelf.
I did.
Only Batman. Yeah, it was Batman.
Yeah, and I actually have Superman on my shelf that I'm looking at. So boom.
Well, I like it when you're able to see it from the other way, but whatever. I miss seeing all your beautiful things hanging in the background.
I know. I'm gonna reset
now we
it
just
up.
get Dragon Ball Z and then a piece of paper
that my son drew. So it's loving, but
so it's just so you mean it's just a piece of paper?
Yes.
Okay.
But again,
no, that's well done. That's a good thought. Yeah, I've totally forgot about that ghost week. So I like your idea. I do. But here's the thing: NFL is going to do what they can do to make money. Well, that may have made the most sense with your plan. I like that plan better than what they did. That well done. But we don't know how much money is involved in that. They don't give a shit.
Well, that's true. But see, so that game, let's see. So this week coming up, the Patriots would have traveled to the Bills and the Ravens would have traveled to the Bengals. So that means one of those two teams would have got to have home field for this game when originally they weren't going to have a home game. So that would be the only, I feel like, speed bump in my idea is, but then again, that's one of those scenarios where you decide you just, since the game would be canceled, right? The games would be canceled this weekend and it would go to next week. That's when today being Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you would get both team captains, right, on a Zoom call or whatever with the commissioner, or a referee, and the commissioner's right there. You would flip a coin. You would have, one of the teams, you would have your Patriots call heads or tails. If they got heads or tails, it would be like, okay, you guys are playing a home game in a week. Like, get to it. Like, again, the owners own their stadiums. They can be like, hey, fuckheads. Oh, we had a concert today? Sorry, we're playing an NFL football game today, which is going to make us way more fucking money. Like, reschedule your concert. You could reschedule a concert when the singer gets sick. I'm pretty sure you can cancel it in a week or reschedule it in a week, or put in a different spot a week when there's going to be a big NFL game. But yeah,
if it came down to that, where had to do a coin flip, Matthew Slater, he's my man. Coin flip legend.
But yeah,
I'm referencing the overtime against the Falcons when he called the correct coin flip and Brady went down and scored a touchdown. Coin flip legend, greatest coin flip caller in the world. I love it. And
again, the only team in my scenario, the only team that kind of gets a little fucked is the Ravens. But
and I don't care.
But, well, for that, it's like, as Ravens fans, if they are thinking of my scenario and being like, that wouldn't be fair, would you rather to clinch your division or to get a shot at clinching your division? Would you rather play the Bengals at home, or would you rather go try to beat the Patriots? You'd probably want to try to beat the Patriots to get that instead of one of the best and hottest teams in the NFL at the moment, which is the Bengals. Again, that's my scenario. It'll never happen. It had no shot of happening, but I think it's infinitely better than lose situation. And for Kansas City, that nothing would change for them. They would still have the same path to the number 1 seed as they did before, which is Bengals beat Bills, Chiefs are number 1. Bills win, Bills are still number 1. All Kansas City had to do was beat the Raiders in all my scenarios, right? Now in this one, it's just like, oh yeah, they get the number 1 seed, and all that has to happen is they don't have to lose to the Raiders. So same situation in my scenario. But again,
man, I can't wait to listen to this episode. You're crushing it. You're absolutely, you brought the energy.
Thank you. I was just thinking the whole time, because obviously
energy.
Yeah. Obviously, my wife, everybody who has ever watched sports and know that I like sports, so family, friends, coworkers have all just been like, did you hear about the Monday Night Football thing? And then it's like, yeah. And then it's like, oh, what would you do? And then I just spew this out. And every single person I've spewed this out to is just like, you know what? Not a bad idea. And I'm like, yeah, I fucking know. I know. It's way better than this fucking 3-page essay I had to read at the NFL, where it's just like, hey, all they had to do is say, no matter who gets the AFC Championship game, we're playing it at a neutral site.
Gotcha. Can you promise me one thing? When you get picked up by a network, you have to say, my co-host is coming as well, or I'm not doing the show. I mean, you probably won't get the show because of that, but I mean,
no,
you got to do it.
I mean, we're the only sports podcast. I would never want to do a show on ESPN or Fox Sports, because I don't want to talk about the Cowboys and Lakers every day, or the fucking
that's
Nets.
ESPN. I feel like,
yeah. No, I think Fox Sports is way better, despite them having Skip Bayless.
All outside of that show, almost. And we also talk about we're not big fans of oh my gosh, midday radio. Wow.
Doug Gottlieb.
Thank you.
Yeah. I
don't like him so much that I've just let. But anyway, so yeah, you promise you'll take me?
Yeah. Yes, I will. Superman and Batman. This is where we put our fists together. Wait, let me take a picture for the Okay. So that'll
There's
be
my
the
Ninja Batman.
Oh, now I gotta, it's so weird. There we go. That was a live. Now you got the live us taking a thumbnail pic right there. But despite all that, Casino, other games in the NFL and NBA and NHL all happened since
Oh
we
yes.
recorded a podcast 6 days ago. Also, the college playoffs happened. So,
Wowzers, we got so much to talk about. We
dude,
might
that's
have
what
to
I'm
do another
saying.
one tomorrow.
We did a fucking rant.
We might have to do a second episode tomorrow.
Well, that's the downfall, only doing one a week. But let's finish up with the NFL and then we'll talk on some other topics.
Heard.
We won't go, because we didn't have a show this week, we won't break down all the week 17 games. We'll just kind of just go through, I guess, the big things to come out of week 17. So
we're gonna do some quick picks, or no?
Well, then we'll do the picks for week 18 and we'll kind of speed along through those a little. But as far as as far as week 17, Monday night's game obviously canceled. We talked about Steelers Ravens was a big game Sunday night. Kenny Pickett led a game-winning drive to beat the Ravens. But let's see, the Seahawks pretty much eliminated the Jets. But the games I want to talk about with you are twofold, which is the Packers completely blowing out the Vikings 41-17. So the question I will ask you with this, Casino, is, are the Packers, first off, all they have to do, I believe, is win this weekend and they are in the playoffs as the last seed. Do you think the Packers, who are playing the Lions, will get into the playoffs? And do you think when they are in the playoffs, they will be a threat?
If Lions win, they go, right?
I believe so.
Right.
Here, talk about it. I'll look up scenarios.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I don't think the Lions are going to roll over on Green Bay. Will Green Bay score on them? For sure. But I would take the Lions coming into this next game. I know that's an early pick already, but if Green Bay does get in, would they scare me a bit? They're going to be a tough team. The Lions would be a tough team. I really don't think almost all these teams that are coming into the NFL or going into the playoffs, they have all at least had one goodish win, and they can turn it on whenever they really need to turn it on. Even Tampa, making the playoffs, they're not great, but what did I tell you? Don't count out Brady. Brady's going to do Brady.
We've been saying for weeks, all he needs to have is one Tom Brady game, and it took till week 17 for him to have a Tom Brady game.
Yeah, and so and I will not knock any team that gets into the playoffs. Other teams I expect to win, sure, but Packers make the playoffs. They made the playoffs. I mean, and they just beat a Minnesota team that, everybody's still hot and cold with. They don't know what that team is. I still don't know what that team is. This year will be over, and we'll talk about it in previous season or in future seasons. I don't know what happened. I don't know what they are.
You're talking about the Minnesota team?
Yeah. So long story long, if Green Bay makes it, would I be nervous playing them? 100%. Would I expect other teams to beat them? 100%.
Yeah. Well, also, so the NFC, there's only 3 possible teams that can get into the playoffs. Because obviously, if my Philadelphia Eagles lose this week to the Giants, they drop from the number 1 seed to the number 5 seed. And then Dallas jumps up to the number 3 seed and they win the NFC East. If the Eagles win, or should I say when the Eagles win, I'm putting that into the universe. When the Eagles win, they will be the number 1 seed. Then it will be the 49ers. If the 49ers win, then it would be the Minnesota Vikings. Then it would be the Tampa Bay Bucks. The first wild card team would be the Dallas Cowboys. The next wild card team would be
the Giants.
Who are also in. And then after that, these are the three teams vying for the last playoff spot in the NFC, and this is how it happens. So, like we were just talking about, Green Bay wins against Detroit, they're in. So they would be the last. They would be the last spot. However, if Green Bay loses and Seattle wins, Seattle would clinch the last playoff spot. And then the last scenario, and Seattle's playing the Rams. The last scenario is if Detroit wins against the Packers and Seattle loses to the Los Angeles Rams, the Lions would be it. So Packers win and they're in. Seattle wins and Green Bay loses, they're in. Lions win and Seattle loses, they're in. So pretty straightforward scenarios right there. Basically, all of them have to win and hope the other two lose. Right? So, unless you're Green Bay. Now for the AFC, the AFC is much more
complicated.
It's much less complicated.
Oh.
Basically, Titans, Jaguars, it's win and you're in, lose and you're out. Not even a wild card, you're out. So that's up for the and that'll be Saturday night. For the AFC South, Buffalo, obviously Buffalo, Bengals, Ravens, Chiefs. We all just talked about the scenarios with them. Now, for the last spot in the,
Miami, Jets, Patriots is pretty much the AFC East, and Ravens
and Steelers.
That's what
Ravens are already in
as
wild card, or they switch with the Bengals.
Right.
So it comes down to New England Patriots. Your New England Patriots, they clinch a playoff berth. All they got to do is win, or the Dolphins, Steelers Jaguars have to lose. And they're in. They backdoor themselves in. Miami Dolphins, all they have to do to clinch a playoff berth is win, and your Patriots lose. So they're obviously, your Patriots are playing the Bills, Dolphins are playing the Jets. Now the Steelers, if both the Patriots and Dolphins lose and they win, they get the last playoffs. They get the last playoff spot. So it all comes down to your team wins, they're in. Your team loses, Dolphins win, they're in. Both those teams lose, Steelers win, they're in. Everybody loses, your team's in. So also with Jacksonville losing. So yeah, that is what it comes down to. For the NFC, it's Lions, Green Bay, Seahawks. For AFC, it's Patriots, Dolphins, Steelers. And then obviously the seeding is basically still up for almost everybody. Craziest thing is in the top of the NFC, if my Eagles win, they're number one seed, pretty much everything falls like how it is now. If my Eagles lose, then it's kind of chaos. Then it comes down to 49ers jump up to number one. If they win, my Eagles lose. And then Cowboys jump up from I believe they would go all the way from number 5 to number 3. Minnesota would fall into 3. No, Cowboys would only go up from, I don't understand any of this casino. It's very complicated.
There's going to be a test on it, so we should all learn it.
So 49ers would go, so Cowboys would go from number 5 to number 2. They would be right behind the 49ers. 49ers would be 1. 3 would be Minnesota. 4 would be Tampa Bay. And then 5 would be Giants. And then 6 would be, 5 would be Eagles, 6 would be Giants, and then the last playoff spot would still come down to that scenario. So we did the AFC, now I just did the NFC. So yeah, crazy. It is crazy that week 18, so many different things can change. I mean, we always get every year with the, like this team needs to win, this team needs to lose to get in the last playoff spot. But going into week 18, it's almost every seeding spot is open and could be completely different come Monday morning, which is fucking crazy for this late in the game. But as far as talking about week 17, the other game I wanted to talk to you about was, did you happen to watch that Raiders 49ers game?
No, none of it.
Oh, it was a 37-34 barn burner that went into OT. The Raiders were led by Jared Stidham, former New England Patriot.
I never want to get rid of him.
I mean, he fucking lit it up.
I didn't want to get rid of him. They didn't play him.
And my question for this game is, obviously the Raiders are going to be a completely different team come next year, so I don't feel like it's worthy of talking about them at this moment. My what I would like from you is, does this show how to maybe beat, or does it show the 49ers more vulnerable than we thought they would be?
No, I don't really think so. We've talked about the Raiders having a good team. They just haven't put together games that they should have. And I mean, let me rephrase that. They haven't put together complete games.
True. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not really shocked that they played them tough. The Raiders have played everybody tough. They just blow it at the end. So, no, I'm not shocked about this. I don't think it really brings a sieve to the Niners because, I mean, they're a good team. We know what they are. I've talked about that in previous podcasts, that we know what the Niners are, and now let's beat them.
Yeah.
So with the Raiders, though, we knew what they were. They were good. They just kept blowing leads. So I don't think that there's really a game plan. That's my reaction on it. What was yours? Do you think that they have figured out how to beat the Niners and now teams are going to follow suit? Or do you just think the Raiders played a good game with good personnel that they have? They just played. I mean, again, I'm not saying Stidham's not better than Carr. I like Stidham. Carr's better. In my opinion, I just think that everybody loves Carr there, and he's not a bad. He's played Hall of Fame. He has played MVP level seasons multiple times.
Yeah.
So anyway, no, I don't. I just think that. So what's your take?
So to answer your question, I think it's a little bit of both. And this is my main concern.
Pick a lane.
Well, I feel like I would lean more towards, maybe we saw the cracks in the 49ers armor and how to beat them, because late in that game, Brock Purdy didn't look like the Brock Purdy of old, and the only difference was
third string quarterback.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, is everybody was saying, oh, well, Brock Purdy, he's just going to roll through the playoffs and it's not going to be an issue. Well, he was also playing with the number one defense in the league and always with a lead against teams that were less than the next
Tom Brady.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people are. And so that's been the hype around him. So we saw him
that would be
miss.
Awesome for him. That would be great for him. But I mean, yeah. All right.
Well, we saw him miss some pretty egregious throws, like miss some like wide open guys, miss some shots he should have hit. And then also on the flip side with the defense, the Raiders put up 500 yards on the 49ers, which is going to be the blueprint going into the playoffs of how to put up yards on what up until this point was a team nobody put up yards against. So if you have a competent, and Josh McDaniels has never been a good head coach, he's always been a pretty damn good offensive coordinator and like offensive scheme guy. So
he's got the resume to show that.
Yeah. And I think even with this Raiders offense, with Stidham, who is a backup quarterback, and then an all-pro running back, all-pro wide receiver, to put up 500 yards on this 49ers team a week or 2 weeks before you're going into the playoffs, I think I would be a little concerned if I was a 49ers fan, because the Raiders almost just handed you the blueprint of how to move the ball and score on a defense that people thought would be much harder than it looked for the Raiders. Okay. So that would be where my concern comes from.
That's fair, but you don't think the 49ers are going to go, hey, they exposed this. Let's get in there. Let's get to practice. Let's fix that shit.
Oh, no, I'm saying that's also, I'm doing worst case scenario. I think what you did, or what you just said, is completely, we might see them round one of the playoffs and they just blow the fuck out of whoever they're playing. But I'm just saying, maybe because everybody now at this moment, my Eagles, and that's the next game we'll go to right now. My Eagles have been struggling. Where's my cursor? They lose to the Saints.
In your mouth, you cursing son of a bitch.
They lose to the Saints 20-10, with Gardner Minshew just having an awful game. I mean, the first half of this game,
are you back in Minshew mania?
Minshew mania is not only dead, it is buried somewhere in Philadelphia, because I'm a big Reddit, Twitter guy when games are going on to get the reactions. And let me tell you, all the goodwill Gardner Minshew has built up in Philadelphia is fucking gone. And after the game, his teammates were throwing him under the bus only because in the after press conference, he did a little Zach Wilson kind of thing and tried to pass the buck and didn't take any of the blame. So I would not be shocked if offseason Minshew is gone, because the city has completely flipped on him. The team is completely flipped on him. A little Zach Wilson, Carson Wentz-ish, apparently. And then there was a story that last year came out. There was a story from last year that came out, which it's bad when they're pulling up stories from last year to bury you further, where Minshew, after he won the game against the Jets and had like a really great game, and Hurts, everybody was still like, what is Hurts? And he was out with an injury, but he was starting. So there was kind of like more wiggle room than there is now, which there's no fucking wiggle room. But back then, I guess he went to the coach's office and was like, I'm a better quarterback than Hurts. What do I have to do to get the starting job? And if it was just him and the coach in that meeting, how the fuck did that story break to the media? Well, it did. So when it rains, it pours. Minshew mania officially dead, Casino, and this is the game to do it. But I also think this puts a nail in the system quarterback discussion with Jalen Hurts, because multiple people, multiple commentators were coming out saying Minshew's better than Hurts. You put Minshew in there, they'll keep winning. And he had a great game against the Cowboys, which their defense has been suspect for 2 months at this point. He had a terrible game against a pretty damn good Saints defense, and the stats are even worse than what you saw in the game, because in the first half they literally had like 6 yards of offense. It was brutal. But yeah, all this to say, I still think Hurts should be the MVP, because you see how much this fucking team falls apart when he's not in it. But Hurts, 100%, if he was playing in the last 2 games, I think they win easily. The defense allowed 13 points against this Saints team, and then they gave up a pick 6 because Gardner Minshew, I even texted you right after it happened, one of the worst pick 6s I've ever seen. They were like at the 5-yard line and throws it right to Lattimore, who is just looking dead at him, nowhere close to A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown after the game was like, yeah, I wasn't scheduled to get the ball on that route. Like, I don't know why the fuck he threw it to me. So when your teammate says that, you're fucking done. You're done. And we will dive into the week 18 games right in a second. My son just woke up. We'll be right back.
Mine too, but I got a daughter.
All right, we are back from our fatherly duties. For you, it was 1 second. For us, it was 20. But for week 17, I think that's all really the noteworthy things, especially a week later, because we obviously talked about all the playoff scenarios. Most of them are week 17 was kind of the weird week. Week 18 is where fucking shit gets real, Casino. So let's go through this, do our picks real quick, and then we'll talk about a couple other things and get out of here. So first up, now this is one of those weeks where they have games Saturday, Sunday, no Thursday night game this week. And you know what? It wasn't fucking missed. We don't need Thursday night football.
Yesterday was Thursday. What?
Thank you. So no Thursday night football game. It wasn't missed. Nobody was bitching about it. With the rash of injuries we've seen this season, we didn't need a fucking week 18. We don't need Thursday night football. If the NFL hires me because of my genius playoff scenarios, those will be my first two things to fucking get rid of. Thursday night football, fuck Amazon, and week 18, fuck the NFL for doing that shit. But
Too many games.
Can't be an advocate for player safety and force them to play more games where they could get injured. It's fucking dumb. Get rid of it.
Yeah, no, well, here's the thing though. If they do bring it back down to they bring it back down to 17 weeks or 16 weeks and they just keep going backwards, they're just gonna make more preseason games again.
No, that'll be my third thing. We only need 2 preseason games. That's it. 2 preseason games, 17 weeks. You could probably go 16 weeks, but we'll keep it 17 weeks because you throw in the buys and shit like that. And then no Thursday night football, only Sunday and Monday games. I'm okay with Saturday in like rare instances like this. And you'll fucking call it. And you know what? You have whatever teams have Monday night football because it would be on a shortened week. You make it so they play Monday night football and then their bye week is that coming week. So they get extra time to rest and we don't have this short week bullshit.
Sounds good to me.
I'm the fucking savior. All right. Savior of the NFL right here. That's what we're going to change the name of this podcast to. So 2 games tomorrow. We have the Chiefs Raiders, which obviously because of all the Bills Bengals scenarios and all that kind of stuff, the Chiefs win this game. They're the number 1 seed, which means to me, reading all that stuff, it means the Chiefs would have home field advantage in the playoffs, except when it got to the AFC Championship game. Is that the same way you were picking it up?
Yeah, same here.
They would also get the bye, which I feel like is much more important. But again, it's already been decided. Can't do anything now. 13-3 Kansas City Chiefs at the 6-10 Las Vegas Raiders coming to our city casino. Who you got for this one?
Sorry, the wife was talking to me. Say that again. Okay. Prop me up.
Chiefs at Raiders. Who you got casino?
Chiefs.
I think it's Chiefs as well. I do think there is a scenario where this game is closer than I think people think going into it, but I don't think the Raiders pull it out. But so this feels like.
Then. Would you take, if you had to, betting +9 for?
Oh yeah, for all day. Raiders? I think this is a 3-point game. I really do.
And they do have it, though. Credit to them. They do have a high scoring game, 52.5.
Damn.
Most of that will, at least that's showing some credit towards, the 2 Pro Bowler running back receiver duo for LV.
Yeah, I still
LV.
I did see what you did. Always the scenario with the Chiefs is their defense is a little bit above average. They're top 12 in yards allowed, but points against, I believe they are they're 20th. So, which means you don't get a lot of yards on the Chiefs, but you can score a lot of points, which I think is always, when you're talking about this Chiefs team, the offense is the one you trust. The defense is basically you cross your fingers if you're a Chiefs fan and be like, is the defense going to show up this week? Yeah. So I think especially the way we saw the Raiders move the ball on the best defense in the league, which was the 49ers, I think they can run and throw all over this Kansas City defense. That's why I think.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I think they got the over-under correct on this.
Yeah.
So I'm just still taking Chiefs.
Next up, the Saturday night game, which both of these games on Saturday, primetime games late in the day, both of them have playoff, playoff scenario implications. This one is to go to the playoffs. Loser goes home.
This one's big.
7-9 Tennessee Titans at 8-8 Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm going Jags. Are you as well, Casino?
All day.
I do think the scenario for this one is you just give the ball to Derrick Henry 40 times, run it down Jaguars' throat, control the clock, don't let, Trevor Lawrence get on the field, and kind of cross your fingers. But
it's Jacksonville all day.
yeah, I don't see, maybe if this was Tannehill, I feel like this game would be like 1,000 times more interesting. But yeah. Next up, a game that shockingly still means something to the Steelers, which is the 7-9 Cleveland Browns at the 8-8 Pittsburgh Steelers. We obviously talked about the scenarios. Pittsburgh needs to win this game and then needs other teams to lose to get in. But to me, I really liked what I saw from Kenny Pickett on Sunday night's game. I don't know. He just has that like intangible where it's just like, I trust him with the ball in his hands. And I feel like you can't say that about a lot of quarterbacks, but even though they're very tiny hands, I trust him with the ball. And hey, if you're a guy, you always want tiny hands around the balls. Am I right, Casino, or am I right?
I'm for it.
So who you got? This game's taking place in Pittsburgh. Are we both going Steelers as well?
Yep. I'm going Steelers. Oh, by the way, when you write, your camera's going like
I know
this.
it shakes. It's the Cloverfield effect. Brings people in.
I hate that movie. I walked out. That was one movie I had to walk out. I couldn't finish that movie. I was getting sick. Like halfway through the movie, I was starting to get sick.
It's a good movie.
And I tried to go back in like 5 minutes back, walking back in after not puking, but stepping out because I was getting nauseous. Went back in for 5 minutes and I was like, can't do it again. And left. I didn't watch the rest of the movie.
It's a good movie.
Anyway, I really want to see Tomlin, just like Brady, not have that losing season.
Yeah.
I want to see it. I like Tomlin a lot. We've talked about this. So I want that for him. I really want Tomlin.
Well, also against the Browns, who the fuck's rooting for the Browns? I even think there's Browns fans that aren't rooting for the Browns.
Everybody was rooting for the Browns until Watson's now in, and now nobody wants to root for the Browns. That's how it works. So,
but then again, if it's up to the Browns to give someone something they don't want, Deshaun Watson is leading that charge, is trying to give the Steelers an L when they don't want it, but we know he gets his way, and then there's really no consequences to him doing that. So sounds like the perfect setup for the Browns winning this game and everybody being like, ugh. Next up, the 10-6 Baltimore Ravens at the 11-4 Cincinnati Bengals. This game has kind of shockingly turned into a AFC North title game, which it wasn't supposed to, but obviously the circumstances, blah, blah, blah.
But it doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah. And well, this one does matter because if the Ravens win, they host a playoff game in Baltimore, which is fucking crazy. And the Bengals would have no shot of hosting a playoff game at this point, or after, if they lose this game. So who you got for this one, Casino?
Dude, since he's still going to rise, I'm picking Cincy because I still think Cincy playing how they played. However, here's the big take. Do you think Monday night fucked them up?
That is not a Scott or a Skip Bayless hot take. That is, I feel like, a real question.
Is this mainly T. Higgins? Like,
yeah,
how well do you think he performs? And like, that's one of their main stars.
Well, I also think for the other teams, obviously we talked about this, where they're going to be like, I feel like there are going to be some teams where the players took what happened on Monday night like really personally, either if they knew him or were just kind of shaken by it. So I feel like we're going to see a lot of, dare I say, like missed tackles or broken tackles this week, because people are going to kind of be cautious as to the way they either run into defenders or defenders run into offensive players. But for the Bengals and Bills, I mean, they're having to play 6 days after Monday Night Football. So yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like Bengals and Bills are just going to be, I feel like Bills, though, at least they can like rally around Hamlin and be like, we're winning this one for him, blah, blah, blah. The Bengals, on the other hand, I don't know, man. I don't know how they come out of that game being like, you know, ready to fight, especially a divisional game. Lamar Jackson, as of 2 hours ago, is ruled out. So Lamar Jackson will not be playing this game. But it still will be in Cincinnati. I don't know. I'm picking the Bengals, but if the Ravens won this game, I wouldn't be shocked. But I'm picking the Bengals. Uh, I'm
Right.
assuming they. I mean, but this is the thing. The Bengals. The only thing that changes is they host one playoff game if they lose. It's not like a devastating. They would drop from like the 3rd seed to the 5th seed. Again, they would have one less home field advantage game. So I don't know. Next up, the 12-4 Minnesota Vikings at the 3-13 Chicago Bears. The Vikings pretty much fucked their season last week. They lost the number 2 seed. I think the 49ers win this week. So Minnesota's just stuck at the 3rd seed. It really doesn't matter. The Bears are playing for nothing. This game kind of means nothing now.
Most of these games mean nothing.
Yeah. So I'm picking the Vikings to just lay like the smackdown on the Bears just so they can confuse everybody going into the playoffs. But I don't know how good of a team you can really be despite your record being 12-4 if 2 of those losses are blowout losses to teams you're better than.
That's fair. Good point. I'm going to take Minnesota on this as well. But again, I like Fields, but at this point, I think they're just going to lay over.
Yeah. Also, the Bears are in a scenario where if they win, it kind of just fucks them because they need draft picks or they need a higher draft, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, next up, your New England Patriots, as we talked about, need to win this game to get into the playoffs. New England Patriots 8-8 at the 12-3 Buffalo Bills. What you were talking about with the Bengals, I think will be opposite for the Bills. I think they're going to do a big Hamlin thing before the game. Everybody's going to be fucking revved up, and they're just going to come out fucking guns a-blazing.
Yeah, I don't think the Patriots are making the playoffs. The Bills are going to win by 50.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say it, but I think this is a blowout. I think the Bills are just going to be playing with emotion that if you could bottle, you could sell for billions of dollars. Like, yep, I don't think this 100%. Is even close. Next up, Jets Dolphins. Now that game, the Patriots losing does open this up for the Dolphins to sneak into the playoffs and avoid just a monumental collapse. The 7-9 New York Jets at the 8-8 Miami Dolphins. As of yesterday, the Dolphins are starting rookie Skylar Thompson because obviously Tua is out with a concussion. And then, what is it? Is it Jacoby Brissett? Who is their backup? It is. It's Brissett, isn't it?
In where? I'm sorry.
For the Dolphins. No, it's Bridgewater.
Bridgewater.
I'm sorry. Brissett is with
you're thinking Cleveland.
Yeah. So Teddy Bridgewater also got knocked out of last week's game with the concussion. I don't know what the fuck is going on down in Miami, but their quarterbacks. In the water. Yeah, their quarterbacks cannot stay healthy. So it'll be their 3rd string against the Jets. I honestly think the Jets win. I think I'm taking the Jets.
I'm taking the Jets, and that's an upset. Miami's -3.
No way.
I mean, the over under is 37, so they got that right. But the Jets are going to crush. Mike White's back. He's going to take care of it.
I really do think the thing the Jets are playing for, potentially for their coach, potentially for their quarterback, 2 people on that team. I think the other players on that team rally around. I think they really do like Saleh. I think they do like White. So that gives them all the motivation they need. And then if the Jets win and the your Patriots lose, that would mean the Steelers would actually get into the playoffs if they won.
Which would be wild.
That would be crazy. But I do think that is the scenario we're looking at here, because I think we both picked the Steelers and we both picked the Patriots and Dolphins to lose. So that would lead to Steelers getting in. Next up, the game is the Buccaneers and the Falcons. This game, I
Means
really
absolutely
think
nothing now.
well, the Bucks, I feel like are just gonna fucking sit everybody. Like they've been banged up all year. I think they use this as a bye week. So for just that reason, Tampa Bay is 8-8, but they won the NFC South last week at the
And
6-10 Falcons.
Atlanta is favored by 4. So
Yeah.
they're understanding that.
So I do think it's going to be Falcons in a game where the Bucks are just playing all fucking backups. If Tom Brady takes one snap in this game, I'd be shocked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he needs a break. He's been, again, I wanted to talk on this again Monday, but Tuesday we didn't, obviously. But oh my gosh, totally blanked on what I was gonna say. Oh, how many times Brady's thrown the football? He's still throwing it over 40 times. I don't get how you can say he's washed up. He's had a Brady game. He had a good game. He had a really, really good game.
Dude, he had maybe the best game he's had in 2 years. Like in terms of just like making it, like we said, a Tom Brady game. He was 34 for 45, 432, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, all 3 touchdowns going to Evans.
Of a game. So
I'll tell you what,
he's not washed up. That's just way too much for anybody at that age to throw the football. I don't care how, like,
45 times. That's fucking crazy.
They need to get something going.
Well, and then you look at their rushing stats. They tried 10 to Fournette, 11 to White. Both of them got less than 30 yards. They were averaging 2 yards a carry. So their running game, again, they have fucking nothing. The Panthers, on the other end, just from that game, Darnold actually looked pretty damn good. I don't know if it's time to give up with Darnold on the Panthers. He's actually looked pretty damn good since he's came back in. But the crazy thing is the Buccaneers are going to go into the playoffs, most likely hosting the Cowboys. I know so many people and analysts and shows that think Tampa Bay wins that game. And I kind of feel like they do. Like that just seems like the most fucking Tom Brady game ever. Everybody's they're gonna be a 10-point underdog at home. Nobody's gonna be thinking Brady can pull it off, and then he just does Brady magic and fucking somehow wins.
Again, I'm not gonna bet against him.
No.
And that is me being a biased Patriot fan. I will never bet against him until he loses in the playoffs. Just in general.
And I'll never bet against him, and then he does lose in the playoffs, and you're just like, oh, I still wouldn't have fucking bet against him. Like, that wouldn't have done anything.
Referencing something that I absolutely hate?
No, I was actually referencing last year, where they actually did beat the Eagles. So, bam. Next up, the 6-10 Carolina Panthers at the 7-9 New Orleans Saints, which is one of those games that literally means nothing.
New Orleans, yeah. Let's go Saints.
I'll tell you what, Saints offense is anemic. I'm done with the whole Taysom Hill thing. I don't know what it is. He gets like 40 yards a game. It just seems I'm just tired of, I didn't want to say this last week because I didn't want to jinx my team. It didn't fucking matter. Saints, one of the top 3 teams in the league. I just fucking cannot stand. I fucking hate the Saints. Like, in terms of out of divisional teams or whatever, every time we play the Saints, I just want to fucking, like, my team to just destroy them. I fucking hate the Saints. I always have. I hate their uniforms, their fucking colors, everything. Like, their only thing I like about them was Drew Brees and that they played in New Orleans. Everything else, because New Orleans, I love that city, but that team I fucking hate. But yeah, that doesn't matter because I'm still no. Actually, I am picking the Panthers. You're picking the Saints. Yeah. I'm picking the Panthers. I like from what I've seen from the Panthers. I did not like what I saw from the Saints against that Eagles team. Their defense is great. Their offense is just blah. I don't know how they score points. Oh, yes, I do. You throw them a fucking pick 6 on the 5-yard line. That's how they fucking score points. Next up, the 2-13-1 Houston Texans at the 4-11-1 Indianapolis Colts. This becomes a question of, I think the Texans can win. If they do, they lose the number 1 pick. So do they even fucking try?
They're gonna fake it.
I honestly,
they'll try their best to keep it respectable, but they're gonna fake it.
Yeah,
they're gonna lose.
I think the Texans do everything in their power to lose, to make it so it looks like they're not trying to lose, if that makes sense. Like kind of how they ended that Cowboys game where they were like, oh wait, we've only won 1 game, and then just ran 3 of the dumbest fucking plays you've ever seen in your life. But yeah, I think it's Colts all day because Texans don't want to win this game.
Nope.
Next up, the 4-12 Arizona Cardinals at the 12-4 San Francisco 49ers.
Niners gonna roll.
There's no scenario where I see the Cardinals winning.
None. 0. Absolutely nilch.
No. So
it's
that
14
game,
and a half. So look at this. 14 and a half for San Fran. 39 and a half is the over. So they're covering close to half the points, but they're expected to beat them by half the point.
And you know what? 14 points, I honestly might take because they're playing against McSorley. Like, I think they win by 3 touchdowns. I really do. And watch, this is going to be one of those fucking dumb games where everybody bets the 49ers and this game ends like 21-17 and everybody's like, the fuck happened here? But next up, the Dallas Cowboys 12-4 at the 7-8-1 Washington Commanders. The NFL is smart, so they put this game the same time as the Eagles game, which means Eagles lose, Cowboys win, Cowboys take the division. So do I think that happens? No. I'm not going reverse jinx. It hasn't worked the last couple weeks. I think the fucking Cowboys, I really think they roll them.
That's fair.
Cowboys. And plus it's not going to be Heineke. I don't even think it's going to be Wentz. It's going to be Sam Howell. So they're exactly. How is he starting over Heineke or Wentz? I don't fucking know. Maybe they're just trying to see. Yeah. Maybe they're just trying to see what they have. I don't know how personally,
but I know how.
Ugh.
Sorry. We're dads, so we just tried to come up with the dumbest jokes.
I mean, so far you're taking the cake with that one. You're taking the cake. Next,
can I eat it too?
Yeah, you're gonna have your cake, eat it too, and then pick who you think wins. No, for right now you're not, because the cake in this situation is the 5-11 Los Angeles Rams at the 8-8 Seattle Seahawks.
I'm going Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I don't think you can count this Rams team out. Especially Seattle hasn't been playing the best in the past month.
They got to fight for an upset and look into next year of being somewhat decent. So, yeah.
I honestly think I might be taking the Rams on this one.
I'm taking the Rams, and Seattle's favored by 6.
No, I don't think. I think it's Rams. I think it's Rams, man. I just trust.
I agree with you.
Oh no, I'm disagreeing with that line. That line seems like a almost pick 'em in my mind. Like if this feels like a 1.5, 2.5 type of game. I don't know. Yeah, I just haven't been impressed by the Seahawks. So I think we are both going Rams. Next up, my Philadelphia Eagles take on the New York Giants, 9-6-1 Giants at 13-3 Philadelphia Eagles. As of 2 hours ago, Jalen Hurts has been upgraded from doubtful to questionable, which means he will fucking start this game. There was
100%.
There was
your little rant about Minshew mania. It's happening.
I think the team will boycott if they start Minshew. I think they will lose their fucking minds. There was a great shot last week of I think it was right after Minshew threw the pick 6. They cut to Hurts on the sidelines. He had a look on his face that said, if that was like, it looked like he was pondering if he could go into the locker room and suit up and just come out. He had this look on his face where he was just like, I'm fucking like, I don't know, just the determination, just the will. If he starts this game in Philadelphia and wins it, and clinches the number 1 seed, which I think will happen, they should just build a fucking statue right outside. Like,
Yeah. I would take one.
I mean, Hurts is a god. I've texted you that multiple times. As of 2 hours ago, Nick Sirianni says Jalen Hurts is trending in the right direction to play Eagles. I think that's coach speak for he's starting, but I don't want to tell the other team that. Even if the Giants do their starters, their backups, I think this is Eagles. They've already blown them out once this season. I just think the Eagles really, I think the Cowboys are built in a way that plays into the Eagles defense, or like the Eagles, weakness. I think the Eagles are almost built in the exact perfect way to beat the Giants. I just think
they're going to crush them.
Yeah. And so I think, I don't think we're both picking the Eagles. This one, no Monday night game this week. So this is still Sunday afternoon game. 10-6 Los Angeles Chargers at the 4-12 Denver Broncos. Nothing changes here, right?
No, but guess what? The Broncos are favored by 3.
Well, yeah, that's because I think also the Chargers, I would be shocked if Herbert takes 1 snap in this game. They are, I think, locked into their playoff position. Aren't they, the Chargers? Nothing changes,
but you know
right?
what? I can't trust Denver. I'm still taking Chargers.
I think it's so crazy that
I just hate Denver so much.
Well, it's crazy that both of Denver's only good games this season have been against the Chiefs. Both times, like, they've actually looked like competent teams. Russell Wilson has actually looked pretty good. That has not happened when they played the Chargers. That being said, I'm still taking the Broncos. You're taking the Chargers?
Yeah, just going to.
All right.
Doesn't matter. I'm kicking your ass anyway.
Oh, you've already won. I don't even know what we're doing here. But we are resetting it for the playoffs. We're resetting it for the playoffs. This week, much like most of the games, means nothing. But it restarts next week, baby. I'm back. Next week. And then no Monday night games. So instead, the week 18 and season finale of the NFL regular season is the 8-8 Detroit Lions at the 8-8 Green Bay Packers. Packers win, they're in. Lions win, and they could potentially be in if we did the scenarios. I think Seattle has to lose. Who was it? It was Seattle and no, that was it, right? They just have to win and Seattle has to lose. No.
We're good.
Yeah, whatever.
We've talked about it. They can rewind.
Yeah. So who you taking in this game, Casito? You think the Packers get in? You're picking the Lions.
I'm picking the Lions. I really think this is going to happen. I think the Packers are so hyped that as soon as the Lions score a few touchdowns, and I'm not saying Green Bay won't, once it's like 14-7 or 14-10, I just think Rodgers is going to shut down because he knows that he has to win this game.
Yeah. And I've mentioned it on this show.
I don't think they're not going to be able to stop Detroit from scoring. Can you catch up with Detroit scoring?
Still, I believe the number 1 offense in the league is, well, it's Kansas City, Buffalo, Philadelphia, and then Detroit in terms of yards allowed, or in terms of yards per game. But I believe they are now, they're still, so they're within top 5 in every offensive category in the league: rushing, passing, points scored, everything, which is fucking crazy. So
I don't think Green Bay can put up many points. That's as simple as that, because they're both shitty defenses.
Yeah. So
I don't think Green Bay has a decent defense. I don't care what people say.
Well, this just becomes the Aaron Rodgers game, right? If Aaron Rodgers has a Tom Brady-esque game in him, they win. If he plays average or below or above average, they lose. So I'm taking the
Just
Lions.
do it.
I'm
Just do
taking the
it. Thank you.
Lions.
Thank
I
you.
don't
I
want to
know
see
what
the
you want to do.
Packers. I don't want to see this Packers team in the playoffs. I would much rather see Seattle or Detroit. So this
Yeah.
just becomes a personal preference.
Oh,
And with that said, let's jump to the other football that was this past
Monday
weekend.
night. Oh yeah, we got to talk about the previous games.
Yeah, that
Previously week.
we did not get to talk about, which was the college football playoffs.
Wild weekend. Did they not get that right or what? They got those 4 teams dead on.
Yeah. No,
being the
I
4
mean
best teams.
both great games. Just fantastic. The Peach Bowl 42-41. Georgia wins after the Ohio State kicker misses the what would have been game-winning kick at
50
the
yards,
stroke
though,
of midnight,
tough.
which was fucking crazy on New Year's Eve. That is fucking on the East Coast. I believe this game. Have you seen where they put the side by side? He missed the kick almost exactly when the ball dropped, which is fucking crazy. And then
Way to start a year.
TCU in the Fiesta Bowl,
We were
51-45 over Michigan.
We were wrong.
We were both
wrong.
wrong. I texted you the night before, and I'd seen this little thing on Sports Center they did where they visited the Michigan players and the TCU players. The Michigan players were like locked in, weren't letting cameras in the locker room. The TCU guys were all just like playing a bunch of board games and having fun. And I text you again, dumb take on my end where I was like, Michigan's locked in. They're going to fucking murder them like 42-7. I'm calling it right now. Almost the opposite. TCU fucking wiped the floor with Michigan. I don't even think that score, I don't think that game was as close as that score indicates. TCU just felt like they had their fucking number the entire game.
Oh, yeah. And whenever Michigan did score, it was off one big play, here or there. But then immediately TCU scored because it got interesting for a second. You're like, oh, it's within a touchdown. And then it was like, you looked away and it was like, oh, 3 touchdowns. And then you're like, oh, a touchdown. No, wait, 3 touchdowns. Like, it just kept,
yeah,
it was absolutely wild. Hats off to the TCU. I mean, I hate Texas teams, but well done.
Yeah.
Well done. That was really cool to see. I think I hit you up when it was like ending the first or something like that. And I texted you, I'm like, TCU is going to win this game.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, there's just
you could tell they just
Michigan was flat. They didn't have any spark.
Well, and you could tell just how well TCU like matched up with Michigan, which I don't think anybody saw coming. Like they just look like they were just the anti to everything Michigan was doing. They just had the solution. Like it was again real crazy. And I agree with what you were saying. Like the final score indicates that this was closer, but almost after midway through the first quarter, it was like, oh my God, TCU has got this. Like Michigan made it a game at the end, but for the first 3 quarters, it looked all TCU and it looked like blowout potential. When we were talking and making our picks, we both picked, or I picked, what did I have? I believe I had Georgia and Michigan, or no, I had Ohio State and Michigan. You had Michigan and Georgia. So we both got 1 right. No,
you got 0.
I got 0. You got 1 right. So I did say, however, the number 1 matchup I wanted to see was Ohio State, Michigan again. And the second scenario I wanted to see was Georgia, TCU. So when it was going to be Ohio State, TCU, I was like, ugh, that sounds like a fucking terrible matchup. But Georgia, TCU as the championship game, there's TCU some spicy wins. There. There's some spicy there.
I'm calling it. Let's do it. Let's just get to the pick because we're running a little late here on this one. I kind of got to go.
Yeah.
But I say TCU, man. I'm calling it TCU. I want the upset. Go Horned Frogs. Because I just don't want Georgia to win again. Nothing against Georgia. It was like the thing with the World Cup. Nothing against France. I just didn't want France to win again.
Yeah.
Let's go TCU.
I think everybody's rooting for TCU to, right the wrongs of the committee, always putting in SEC teams, teams.
That would be phenomenal.
Yeah, over like Boise State and Tulane and others UCF, like other smaller schools throughout the years that have had chance to go in, but just got snubbed. So I feel like all the weight of the world's going to be on TCU's shoulders to kind of like right those wrongs. I still think it's
wait
Georgia.
for the big playoff.
What'd you say?
I can't wait for them to do a big playoff.
Oh, bracket. I know. When they finally expand it to, I think they're going to expand it to 12 or 16 or whatever. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Oh,
fantastic.
Yep. We got to get rolling here.
Yeah. So that's, you want to just call it there?
Yeah.
I think we're just going to call it there. Obviously, a lot of shit to unpack about this past week in sports and sports related sadness, I guess you want to call it. But I guess now it's happiness because Damar Hamlin, he's okay. He's responsive. He's talking to teammates on FaceTime. So thank God for that. Thank God, the most watched college football game didn't end because a player died on the field. That would be horrendous in every way you can spin it. But this has been the Only Sports Podcast. We will be back regularly scheduled 2 episodes a week starting next week. Follow us on Twitter. I posted the first ever Twitter post for our show, which was saying that we canceled the last show. I'm going to try to do more live tweeting with sports when I'm watching it. So it is the Only Sports Cast on Twitter. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube, and then obviously wherever you get your podcast, we're on it. Only Sports Podcast. I've been Will. That's Casino. You got anything else to add, Casino?
Yeah, don't cancel me.
No, I think your takes were, I think they were fantastic. Also 2023, Happy New Year from the Only Sports Pod.
Again, leave comments, please. I like comments because I like to make fun of BJ.
Yeah, I think I'm actually going to post something on Twitter before we record, maybe the day before we record. If anybody has any questions or thoughts that we'll share like on the podcast, we can maybe do a little segment there. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm sure we can find some time for our fans to start leaving us comments.
Yeah, buddy. You know what? Leave us comments anywhere. We'll read them on the show. So yeah, I'm Will. That's Casino, and we'll see you Monday, Tuesday.